what is most different from Connor and Mark of 13 years ago to Connor and Mark now. Part two will be, what do you hope is most different, or what do you foresee maybe being most different in 5 years?
Obviously, when I started off, I was a 23-year-old kid just out of college. I had to do everything. My focus was so narrowed into what I was doing on the day-to-day. Now that I think big picture, I didn't care what happened 5 to 10 years from when I first started. Now that's all I think about. What I'm doing today, that's going to set us up for the future. The second part of this would be what really pushed that forward is the group and the people that I'm around. That was my vision of what success was.
The important factor is, how do you still do other stuff and live your life? Again, my kids will be older, another new decade in life. You're going to be entering a different season of life. How do you learn how to hammer, manage, and develop these skills alongside your development as a person, a father, husband, as we go through life here? We got to be able to detach and continue to develop and grow and evolve as people.
What is happening, beautiful people? Hello, and welcome to another episode of the Build Your Gympire podcast. You're in the right place if you're a personal trainer, gym owner, box owner, fitness pro that's looking to grow your gym, grow your business in ways that you, your team, your community, the people you serve, and not least importantly, your bank account are going to feel absolutely awesome about. I am personally excited about the topic, the little question prompt for this week. Basically, what I want to know is, because you guys, how long have we been in business? How long have Connor? I know you were 15 years ago. Or 14, 15 years ago, somewhere in that range. We're getting old. Mark, how many years ago did you start?
June of 2011. So at the time of this, almost 13 years ago.
All right. So
we just hit 13 years 3 days ago, April 1st.
Oh, yeah. It's our little anniversary.
Thanks for following me on social media, guys. I mean, you guys don't even know my life.
Oh, my bad. Yeah. So Connor and I met, I guess, 13 years ago. So this is the starting question. All right. So the first thing that we're going to dive into is what is most different from Connor and Mark of 13 years ago to Connor and Mark now. Part two will be, what do you hope is most different, or what do you foresee maybe being most different in 5 years? So what's most different, whoever the day one guy is, what's most different for you guys from 13 years ago when you started?
I would say that's a pretty loaded question
Yeah.
to kick things off.
Hell yeah.
I think the number one thing that would be different is just the way that I am going about my work. Obviously, when I started off, I was a 23-year-old kid just out of college, and I had to do everything. So everything relied on me, and it was like getting up and just doing the work, doing the daily work. You know what I mean? And just trying to, I wasn't, and I know we've talked about this in the past, but like, I wasn't thinking 5, 10 years down the road. I was thinking 1 hour from now. You know what I mean? I was thinking about the next day. And it was, if I did the right things enough days in a row, that it would, I just, had faith that it was going to eventually work out. So I think that would be the number one thing. My focus was so narrowed into what I was doing on the day to day. I still have that, but it's a different focus now that I think big picture. And I think, to go into your next question, I'm not going to go into it, but like, I didn't care what happened 5 to 10 years from when I first started. Now that's kind of all I think about. I'm always thinking about how I'm setting up what I'm doing today that's going to set us up for the future. The business, the company, myself, my family, all that. And I think a second part of this would be what really pushed that forward, or is pushing me forward, is the group and the people that I'm around. So when I first got into it, it was all 20-something-year-olds, that all hopped on the Elite FTS Q&A and the Joe D and all that stuff. And it was like, get a warehouse gym and train athletes and make six figures. Like everyone
make 6 figures a year, train athletes.
And that's where GR and I met. And it was like, that was my vision of what success was. And now, as my circles have changed and I've continued to kind of climb that, quote unquote ladder of success, and my circles have changed, and now I'm hanging out with people like you guys who are doing things that I never even thought was possible. My vision of success changes and it continues to elevate. And I think that's kind of the biggest change that continues to happen on a daily basis is new levels, new devils, right, Mark?
Amen.
Amen. And
So if
that
I'm
tosses a softball right to you.
no, wait,
Okay,
wait, wait.
okay.
Hold up. So hearing is because this is interesting, right? Like there's some of it's the way that you maybe think about going about the work and maybe your mindset in terms of thinking into the future and things like that. But another, it sounds like one of your bigger things is like the circles, the people that you're surrounding yourself with have been like probably that maybe it sounds like that's one of the most different things from you 13 years ago to you now. Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, just the way that I view things and the way that I talk about things, you know what I mean? Like back in the day, you always talk about like the strategy versus tactic. Like I thought so tactically. And now
Mm-hmm.
as I'm getting into bigger conversations, I guess you can say, um, that carry more weight, everything shifts to strategy. And I think that being in those conversations and talking with you guys on a daily, weekly basis, I mean, you have to think bigger. You know what I mean? When I was 23 years old, I wasn't thinking bigger. And I don't think I needed to think bigger, right? I think
Sure.
there's definitely a dichotomy of where people get too far ahead of it and they're thinking all these big picture stuff when they're not doing the daily shit right. You know what I mean? I went the right way of going about it and I did the daily shit right. And I got really good at doing the daily shit. You know what I mean? I got really good at delivering a certain product to delivering a service that was really freaking good. And then the next level, like progression, next logical progression was a little bit bigger, was a little bit bigger. That is unprofessional. My phone is ringing. You guys hear that?
Oh my gosh. Here we go. It's not Mark Center at this time, lovely listeners.
We'll keep it
It's
going,
Connor's
edit,
fucking phone.
edit people, chop that right out. But yeah, that was shoot, you want to just wait?
No, it's fine. So, what for my small brain here, Connor, what's the difference between thinking tactically and strategically? What is the difference in strategy and tactics in your mind?
I think there's a lot of tactics. It's kind of like the principal approach. I think there's a lot of ways to skin a cat, right? There's a lot of tactics that you can implement, but the overall strategy and the long-term vision of how those things are going to line up is the more important way to view things as you get to those higher levels and you get more, responsibility and you get more things that are depending on you. You have to view more of the strategy. Like there's a million ways to gym member machine does our marketing. There's a million different ways to make an offer and what offer you're using, but the overall strategy of how you're marketing to your avatar is the bigger picture.
So a tactic might be what?
In what sense? A
I don't know,
tactic.
just pick one. Like I'm just like give me an example. Help me understand, help our listeners understand. Okay, wait, am I thinking tactically or am I thinking strategically? So like a tactic is a tactic like, oh, change a headline on an ad, and the
Yeah,
strategy is I want profitable client acquisition, or like help me break that down.
yeah, absolutely. I think tactically, I mean, is thinking a very narrowed focus on one piece of the puzzle, and the strategy is the overall puzzle.
Oh, that's a clip right there. That's great. Yeah. Nice. Well done. Hey,
Hey, thank you so
hey.
much.
I
Thank you.
feel like I did a good job interviewing there,
You
guys.
did.
All right. Right.
You
That
did.
wasn't that
Joe,
wasn't shit.
very Joe
Good.
Rogan-esque. You want to
Good.
just
B plus.
cut the podcast off now, and we don't have to listen to Mark?
Yeah, good job. B plus can always get better. There we go.
All right.
Never. No
Nice.
complacency. No complacency.
So Mark, what about you? What's the biggest difference in early Mark versus now Mark?
Yeah, obviously from the, being 24 to 13 years later now with, wife, kids, you're, you've been doing this a long time. So it's Connor summed it up really, really well. And what I'll add to that too is I like having a little more certainty and a little more of the plan. But at the end of the day, my plan was just like I wanted to just grow and then have a bigger place someday. You're right. We started off really small. That was it. Like, how are we gonna get there? Well, I'm just gonna then do a great job, day in, day out, week in, week out. That's fine. The difference now, like, obviously, is how I spend my time, right? But even back then, like, paradox of law is real. It's very like, or the Parkinson's law is real, right? With the time paradox of like, hey, yeah, I am spending my time coaching, dealing with clients, and I have all this time because I'm a single 24-year-old guy and I can live cheaply and I love being in the gym and I just love what I'm doing, right? So you can find a lot, you can do a lot more throughout the day and not quote unquote as busy. You feel like you're busy, but you're not, because you just have so much time to do that, right? And I guess the bigger difference is, to sum that up, is when you're first starting out, it is you take more of that coach mindset, and now years later, decade plus later, is you're more of a mindset of the CEO, right? You go from wanting to survive to now, how do I thrive? Surviving isn't enough. Surviving for us is failure. Like, how do I thrive in this, years later, in this business, in this company? And I think the biggest thing that people have to understand too is, like, even back then when you're first starting out, you're still making decisions and you're solving problems. That is always going to be the case. Now my problems I solve are much bigger. My skills of problem solver has improved tremendously, and my decision making is obviously bigger decisions. Hopefully you kind of make less. There's always an interesting thing on, like, I should make less decisions, and it's like, I don't know. It kind of goes in waves. I think in not to run into your next question here, but in 5 or 10 years, I'm still gonna be making decisions. I want to make less of them. They're bigger though, so they might take more time. And I think that's what we have to think of, almost like in chapters, right? Or even levels of, when I first started, you have making decisions on a small scale, maybe a lot, but maybe the depth isn't very deep, right? And then you grow and expand and have more and more in years stack up, and you need to make a little bigger decisions, and they still impact a lot of people. But as we continue to grow, maybe those decisions fall to somebody else as you grow and scale your team. You as a CEO still have decisions to make. And then I think it just kind of trends from there. And I think if you talk to other older, wiser people that have been doing this a lot longer too, they probably say this something very similar. So I think it's a very interesting thing of, like, the things that you're doing when you're just starting out, you're still going to do those later, but it is definitely going to look a little bit different.
When you start out, it's like, all right, so should we do like max effort bench this week, or should we like throw the like whatever the fuck, right? And now it's should we buy a building and install a COO, or it's a little bit of a different thing. I have three big things on mine from when I started to where it is now. So what I, like the biggest gap from like me, whatever it was, 13 years ago to me 8 years ago, right? Because that was kind of the time period it took for me to like figure out marketing and stuff. Like, I had zero skills. Like, I had no idea. I remember having a conversation with one of the guys at that first seminar that Connor and I met. I talked to TC, and I was like, what's an email autoresponder? Like, what like, I don't even know what an email list is, literally asking about just some of the basic vocabulary of business. And now obviously marketing is a pretty big skill set. So there's like a huge skill difference between, me now and me, 13, 14 years ago, just on some of the micro, tactical things. I think, and this is probably even a development of the last, 5 years, and hopefully it'll continue to be that. I feel like my patience, and it's like, you start off and you're like, I want to make $1 bajillion in 3 seconds, right? Like, I got to get to 10K or whatever immediately. I think my mindset around patience and longevity in business is very different. And I think my stress level, like how I handle stress and how I handle these bigger decisions, is very different. Because it used to be like, I don't even know. I'm trying to think of a good example of a decision, but a client doesn't respond, or one person says something negative on a phone call with you, and you're like, oh my God, like my whole life is over. I'm gonna die. And now it's like, oh, you've got a really major team member issue or project or whatever it is, and you've got to deal with these really significant business problems. Like, my level of stress in dealing with problems that are realistically probably fucking 10,000 times more difficult to deal with than decisions that I was dealing with 13 years ago. I am handling with, you know, 10% of the stress that I used to handle those like smaller decisions with, if that makes sense, right? Like as we get more seasoned, it's sort of like, all right, like this is just another one of those. I feel like that's like a Ray Dalio thing, right? He says, oh, it's just another one of these. The first time you see something, it's really fucking crazy and intimidating. Now it's like, oh, it's just another one of those. It's another issue with an ad account. It's another issue with the team member. It's another person we need to hire, fire, have a tough conversation with, whatever it is. And the first time you fire somebody, that's probably a really scary, intimidating thing. Well, now it's like, all right, like I'm more equipped to handle those conversations. Next step, what do you guys hope is most different? This is a hard one. I'm like trying to think of my answer as you guys are doing yours, but what do you hope is most different from I guess, how do you hope Connor 5 years from now is most different from Connor now?
I was hoping you were going to ask Mark to go first.
I got it.
I can.
All
right, go.
I'll save you here, Connor.
Thank you, sir.
Returning, I could tell. Because I'm just going to piggyback off of what I just mentioned too, and I like what GR said as well about the response to stress. So, because I totally agree with that too. But 10 years from now, I'm still making decisions. I hope they're really big decisions. I hope the complexity of those decisions is really high, and that's something that only I could probably do. I think it's, as a leader and developing team members, I think it'd be a failure in 10 years from now if I can't develop other staff members to decide on some of these issues that pop up in business, right? So I think that could be a system thing. It could be a development thing with staff, but I'm going to bank on that we can develop them in 10 years to be able to handle some of the decisions that I make now. I think that'd be really a sign of success, and one that I am aiming for. And then again, same thing on like other problems, right? I hope the problems I'm solving I'm not really solving day-to-day problems right now, but I hope the problems I'm solving are much different and obviously much bigger, because that means only I'm doing that and I'm sitting in my right role. But when you do that, you get a lot of I guess, I don't know, like freedom, but like also like what you just said, GR, as well. Like it's just another one of these. Let's see how skilled we can get. And I think the important factor is like, how do you still do other stuff and live your life? Again, my kids will be older. You're another new decade in life. Like you're going to be entering a different season of life. How do you learn how to hammer and manage these skills and develop these skills alongside your development as a person, a father, husband, as we go through life here? And yeah, is it business related? Sure. But also on the personal side, like we got to be able to kind of detach and continue to develop and grow, and evolve as people. So I think that's an interesting, it's a fun exercise. I had fun thinking about it, but then it's like, then you can get into more specifics of, oh, I want, this many locations, or I'm going to start this new revenue stream or this business, or my team's going to look like this. And, that's all, those, again, in terms of Connor's terms, those are all more like tactical type things, really. In the grand scheme of things, strategically, you can start to identify, I want to be able to do this. I want to make sure I'm doing this. Great. That's my strategy. Like that's my strategic vision. And then great, what's going to allow me to do that? So I think that's a really fun exercise to do. So thanks for presenting that to us, GR. Connor, are you ready now?
I am ready. I will go
Nice.
off that is, I don't know. Is that fair enough to say?
Because dude, this is an honest conversation. Let's go.
And the reason why I don't know is what I'm currently doing in my business is to set it up to have multiple exit strategies. And so I don't know in 10 years, 5 to 10 years, of where we'll be at in business. But one thing I do know is that I love to build, develop, and create. Right. And so what I will continue to do that. And in 5 to 10 years, I'm going to continue to do that. And I don't know what it's going to be in. I don't know if it's going to continue to be within, this business that I'm currently in, and continue to build and develop that way. It more than likely, I could see that it is. And I'm definitely in the same boat as Mark of, if I'm doing the same shit that I'm doing now, then it was a failure, right? If I can't continue to build and develop like within my team and structure to have, the right people in the right seats to not be doing some of the day-to-day thinking and thought process and decisions that I'm currently doing, then it was definitely a failure. Just like Mark, I have young kids. I have 3 young kids. I currently set up my life and my work life, quote unquote, or I don't even want to say work life balance, but I currently set up my work schedule and my focused work blocks around my family life, right? Like that's what's most important to me. That if that started to seep into that, then it's a failure to me, the way that I set it up, because I am very intentional about the way that I'm setting it up and will continue to set it up for the future. So ultimately, I want to continue to really focus on building and developing the next 5 to 10 years. And then wherever that puts me, it will put me.
There we go. I like it. This is fun. I like this exercise. I feel like mine, like, it's definitely you got to have 3 Lambos, a private jet. I'm gonna finally do the guru thing and hop on the juice. I know it's probably surprising. It's probably surprising for everybody, but if you can't see, this is lifetime natty right there. I know, shocking to everyone, shocking revelation, but got to hop on the juice, finally get the guru, cap delts and go down that path with the jet and some Lambos. On a more serious note, I'm in the same boat as you guys with the young kids, right? I got 3 disease bearing crotch goblins, 6, 4, and 1 as of last month, and like there's some shit that's about to go down, right, in their lives, where it's like, yeah, I'm going to be spending a lot of time there. I think from a business skill perspective, the biggest thing that I don't think I have quite figured out yet, because my sense of how the whole business progression works is, first you figure out how to grow the thing on your own. This is assuming that you're not coming from a bunch of money and buying a franchise or whatever it is, right? The first step, you figure out how to kind of build stuff on your own. Then you figure out how to get doers to do some of the little jobs in the business. Then you figure out how to maybe get some managers that can manage some of the doers in the business. And then eventually you get to the point where you are developing leaders that you trust to make decisions, right? Because both of you have said, essentially, if you didn't state it specifically, that the decision making is the highest level thing that you guys are doing in your business. That right now, outside, like the big decisions are not delegated to other humans, right? Small decisions maybe, but the big decisions aren't. For me, I think that the skill, if I was looking back in 5 years and be like, oh yeah, like this is great, like look at what you did, it would be getting really, really fucking good at developing other leaders within the business/businesses that I'm involved in. Because that means that I've got, more time to do things with the kids, and that I have developed a skill that I currently do not have, so hopefully in 5 years, I'm looking back at my leadership and ability to develop leaders the way that I'm looking at my marketing skills now. I think that'd be really fucking cool. And I'm kind of like Connor. It's like, all right, we see where that takes us. Like I've got my little targets, and things that I want to see from a business perspective, but from a personal like skill development, it's like, how do I develop, the skill to create other leaders where I'm like, fuck, I don't need to make all the decisions here. In fact, I trust you guys. And the only thing I'm going to do is like fight you on it and really have a quality discussion similar to how we're doing it now. I think you could develop leaders or find them. Like you guys are leaders. We've just had a great discussion and meeting on how to do things with our next mastermind crew, right? But yeah, I'd be really thrilled to be able to say, oh shit, you're really fucking good at creating other leaders within your organization and creating people that you can trust to go run these various arms of the companies that we're currently building. So good stuff. I like that. Any other closing thoughts, things that you want to get out into the ether here?
I don't think so.
Okay.
Sums up
All right.
pretty nicely.
All right. Well done, guys. Appreciate the discussion. If you guys enjoyed that, let us know. Leave a nice little 5-star review. Share it with a gym owner that might find it useful. And we will see you in the next episode.